Hello, everyone. My name is John Rogers. Welcome back to Cutler Real Estate Auctions. I am John Rogers, the auctioneer, and with the Rogers Network, we're the Cutler Auction Division. We've had a couple different podcasts, a couple videos we put out. This week, I want to bring you something a little bit different. I want to introduce one of the partnership agents here at Cutler that we did a project with, Katie Harris. Katie.
Hi. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for being able to come on and for your time and everything.
Of course.
Also the project. So, as this moved about, somehow within business, you heard about a project, had a client maybe that came to you, a potential client, and they brought up the idea of this home in Newark, Ohio. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so this was an acquaintance that brought to me her grandmother's home in Newark that they were responsible for helping to take care of and to sell.
Yeah.
So I met her out there, took a look at the house, and immediately knew that the house was not going to be something that we could sell in a typical way. Yeah. So it did not take long for me to consider you and consider auction, because I knew that this was going to be an enormous project to be able to get sold.
Right. So I never get a chance really to stop and talk to the agents about, when did this click, or when did it hit your mind to think maybe I need to talk to somebody else or an auctioneer or a partner, whatever. And in this case, you looked at it and it was it condition? I mean, I know, but kind of tell them condition, the type of house. What was it that?
It was definitely condition. And I would say that I knew within about the first 10 seconds of walking in the door that this was not going to be a solo project for me. Yeah. And it was not going to be something that would sell in a typical manner.
Right.
So,
so then I'll go fast forward. Then I met you. This is kind of the step two that I want other agents to realize, is that once somebody brings this idea to the table, it is just simply that there's no ultimate commitment. It is, hey, let's go take a look. So we met at the house. The seller's granddaughter, which is kind of her POA, her person, her authority, was there. We met with them, and then I went in and took a look at the house. First thing we knew right off the bat, the house was full. It was a hoarder's home. Right. So I had those situations. It was very difficult in regards to, not only was it very, very full, the odor of the home was very difficult. So we knew that right off the bat, every room, garage, everything, basement, full water in the basement, different things like that. So, kind of went from there, and then we come back out, kind of just talk briefly. And I mentioned then to the granddaughter that we can do this. Unfortunately, it's so large. There's no way for me to really know, how long this is going to take to clean up. We need to clean this out. The one thing that I realized when I saw this is that even investors are not going to really be able to see the true condition of this house, because I couldn't see walls, couldn't see floors, you couldn't see overall condition until we get it cleaned out.
Right.
So we talked to her a little bit about that, and then we kind of moved forward. So as we did that and we started to go forward again, the enormity of this was not something I realized from the beginning. To let you guys out there know, if you've cleaned anything out at all, typically if we take 40-yard dumpster. 40-yard dumpster is a great big dumpster. So it's the one that goes on the back of a semi. A 20-yard dumpster is a very, very large home dumpster. We took out just less than 220 cubic yards, which ended up being 32,600 some pounds out of the house. So 16 tons out of the house, which was absolutely unbelievable. Insane. Did not realize that until we actually got involved in that. There were different things, rodents and things we dealt with and things like that along the way. So it was a big project.
Yeah.
We did that cleanup. We did part of that. They understand how that went. And then as we were going through that, you were kind of communicating with the seller, the granddaughter. The grandmother had lived in the home. They had removed her from the home. As you were talking to them, what was their feeling during the period going through it?
So the granddaughter was extremely overwhelmed by the entire situation, the enormity of the situation. She had just taken her grandmother in. So at their own personal level, they were just trying to accommodate their own family in their own home while still having this enormous project going on, and just such a weight on their shoulders. So I think that throughout the entire process, she felt such a huge weight off of her, because she knew that it was being handled. She knew that, we were still going through the process and it was going to take time. And she knew that we were giving her updates. She knew what was happening with the home. but she knew that it wasn't on her to complete it. And that was something that was huge when I reached out to you, because I knew that if we had just done this on our own and I had hired somebody to help them clean it out, you know, there was going to just be a lot of financial portions that were happening to them right up front, where they didn't necessarily have that until the house closed.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So having you guys as a partner to be able to work through this, I think it just lightened her load so much and allowed her to handle the things in her own home that she needed to handle with her grandma.
Yep. We had, again, the project crew, and I've teased people, and I was saying, I don't know if I said to you, I've said to other people, that when you get into some of these bigger projects, it's like eating peanut butter. The more you eat, the bigger it gets. It just feels like it's getting bigger. I had all my people finally dressed from head to toe, full body suits, goggles. I had masks, just because of the condition of the home and things. We went through some of that, and it was difficult. And some people, I had a couple of people that couldn't come back. They just didn't come back. So there was some of that. And then, like you mentioned, for us it was okay, but there was financial outlay in the beginning. I want to say maybe we had $4,000 or $5,000 that we had out, and whether labor and travel and the trailers and disposal and all that, it just got huge.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was something we could do when we were able to handle. Something else that was interesting, and I don't know we never really talked about this, you and I didn't, but something I want to make sure that other agents out there realize is that every auction that we do has the opportunity of getting pre-bids online before the auction, but it also, somebody can make offers prior to. So if investors or anybody that comes in and says, hey, I want to make an offer, they can do that, but the seller has no obligation to accept. Right. Regardless of the minimum bids, they have no obligation to accept. So they can accept, they can decline, or they can counter. And whenever we started getting offers there in the beginning, and as you talked to the granddaughter, how did that go?
So she felt like relief, because I think that she wasn't really sure exactly what was going to happen and how much they were going to be able to bring in. And when we started to receive offers, I think there was just this huge sense of relief that this was actually coming to an end. They were actually going to make some money off of the home and be able to use that for grandma's care for the next few years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Once we started to take things out, we found floors that were gone, that had a lot of water damage and had rotted through floor joists, things in the basement. So as we started to go through, I had to reach back out. It's only maybe the second or third time in my whole career that I've had to recant and say, hey, I think we need to drop the minimum a little bit, because I'm worried about this. I'm concerned about the condition. The further I get, the deeper I get, the worse it gets, kind of a thing. So to say that, and then at the end, to realize that we still, even over the first minimum that we set, we still went, I think, $50,000 over that.
Right.
So when our final price came back and we agreed and get done, that was a great thing. I was even, not surprised as much. I was just very excited, very relieved as well, and so you get the chance to talk to the seller and their thoughts. What did she talk to you about?
She was ecstatic, just ecstatic. I mean, just knowing that it was done and that there was a buyer that was going to love the home. This had been a family home for generations, and that they were going to have the funds to be able to make sure that grandma was comfortable for her remaining years.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And so this buyer actually had just bought a home. This is the third property he's bought from me as an investor, and I've seen one other that he did and put together, and it's fantastic. He has great renovation work, and so he got involved. I'm glad she felt that way. So we kind of went down through there, and then and grandma was there, and grandma now, I mean, you mentioned to me as grandma seems better.
Grandma seems so much better. Grandma seems more vibrant. She seems healthier, just being in a cleaner, safer environment for her. Yeah. She just seems like she's doing wonderful and thriving. I'm glad. That was a very difficult situation. I couldn't imagine everything the family's going through, but grandma as well. So we go through this whole thing, we get done, we go to closing. We actually closed before the day of the auction was supposed to happen, which was pretty cool. We get all that finished. How would you describe the process? You'd never been through an auction process before, right? No.
So how would you describe it?
Oh my gosh, it was just easy for me. It was easy. Good. So, I mean, it was just great that I was able to have you as a partner and somebody that I knew was going to handle the situation both with dignity and the care that it needed to get the project done. And it was wonderful from beginning to end. It was wonderful.
I'm so glad. And that's another reason I wanted to ask you. And we hadn't met before this.
Right.
We kind of talked a little bit, and then when this happened, I thought I really want to get a good perspective of, what would you think, what did you expect, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So there's 2 programs, and I mentioned this to you in the beginning,
Right.
that either we take care of the MLS and everything, and you're an additional, listing agent, and there's the full 3% commission. Or if you want to take care of that and you want to deal with the paperwork, the open houses, all those kind of things, and you elected to let us do that.
Right.
And so for you, that was a 3% versus 4%.
Right.
Tell me how that played.
For me, it was an easy decision
Yeah.
on this property. The amount of work that was going to go into this property, I wasn't even totally sure how the best way to market it would be in this scenario. It wasn't going to be something where it was necessarily safe to have a general open house for neighbors or just anybody to come through.
Investors, anybody, yeah.
Right. So having you handle it, knowing that you were the expert in this type of a situation was just, it was a no-brainer for me to choose that option.
I'm glad. And so to let you know, I did have several people come through. We even had owner occupies. There were 2 of those that came through. We did have a waiver sign. So out there in the Cutler world, we had a waiver sign that said, hey, I know I'm walking into the situation. There may be mold, there may be this, maybe that. We had it mandatory to wear masks and things like that to be able to go through the home. So we held those, and we did that live. We were there with those people and walked through and kind of pointed things out. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that and how that worked. So other than that, I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you can think of as far as wrap things up?
No, I don't know how we would have ever gotten through this without you. So just having this as an option was amazing. And like I said, I can never speak enough good things about the way that you handled everything with such care and with such dignity and such a very emotional situation that our clients were going through.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I appreciate the business.
Thank
I appreciate the partnership. So any of you have any questions out there, please feel free. Again, John Rogers, Katie Harris, coming to you. Have a great day.
Thanks.